How lucky are we? Yet another BJ to come through the gates at Mr Landcruiser. Very, very spoilt. This one's a BJ74, and that means that it's got the mighty 13 BT under the bonnet, the factory 4-cylinder diesel. Interesting story behind this one. So it started its life in the Northern Territory, where it was imported as a grey import from Japan. The previous owner made his way down to Brisbane, and that's where the new owner has purchased this about 2 years ago. And he's gone right through this thing, bodywork wise. It had a few spots of rust, so it's got a new paint job on it, and they're just getting it ready. It's on the road, and it's a real beautiful specimen. Up the front, we've got the ARB bull bar, suits it very well. We've got simple stuff like a snorkel, and the tinted windows on this white car really set it off. It really looks gangster. We've just got some mags on there, a little 32-inch by 11.5 on 15-inch rims. And you'll notice the emblem on you see this on a lot of imports from Japan. There's a little Toyota emblem that would have been factory in Japan. Very cool, nice little chrome emblem up there. Everything's pretty much factory. Apart from that, we've got factory side steps, factory rear bar. As all of these mid-wheelbase, we've got the FRP top on there because it's got the roll cage. You can actually pull that off and have this thing open top. It's very cool. Without any further ado, I reckon we go underneath the bonnet and have a look at the mighty 13 BT and what's going on under there. Very cool, man. You don't see this very often. It's a very sought after engine. A lot of guys like to put them in 40s. And this is basically where they come from. This or the Dyna truck. The 13 BT factory turbo. It's all very stocko under here, nothing much going on at all. But being a 13 BT, it's got all the bells and whistles for the time, you know, power steer, aircon. The BJ74 definitely was breaking new boundaries with luxury, that's for sure. In Australia, this is where you'd have your dual battery mounted, but being a Japanese import and being 24 volt, this is an additional battery to make the two 12-volt batteries 24 volt. But it brings me to why it has come into Mr Landcruiser. So the new the new owner of this vehicle has been having fuel system problems. Now we've spoke to him on the phone and tried to troubleshoot with him on a number of occasions. He's done what we've said to do. There's a limit to what you can tell people to do over the phone because you haven't got the vehicle in front of us. He's still having problems. Let's get it up to Mr Landcruiser, it's time. So he's trailered it up here and we've been able to go through and find out what's going on. And it came down to, so the 13 BT, like the 12 HT, has got a fuel return. So it means you've got fuel coming from the tank into the diesel pump, and then it returns what's not being used or is unneeded, then gets returned back to the tank. Now that's unlike the 2H or the 3B where they only have a feed, so there's nothing else to go wrong. Now what they've also got on the side of here is a check valve. That check valve stops the flow of fuel when the engine's been turned off, so it can't siphon back or air can't return back into the system. So what's been happening to this vehicle is that check valve is faulty, and when it's parked on an incline, it basically siphons the fuel back into the tank and picks up the air from the return, because that's not submerged in the diesel, picks up the air from the top of the tank and brings it back through the fuel system. So when he goes to start it every morning, he has the rigmarole of having to pump it up, bleed the lines. It's a nightmare. So we can't get hold of the genuine check valve anymore, so we've put an aftermarket check valve in here to stop that from happening, and it's been absolutely perfect since. I'm very pleased to, you know, because it gets to a point sometimes where you're just pulling your hair out. So we've been able to sort this one out and go back to the customer and they can actually enjoy this vehicle. So it's very cool. But that's under the bonnet. Let's go and check out this bad boy inside. I've just noticed something super cool. Just underneath these rubber flaps here, there's what looks like a blind, you know, like a window blind in your house. Now, being from Japan and their cold climates, I guarantee that would be, so in the winter months, you could pull that down over the radiator so it didn't cool the engine too much, so it actually gave it a chance to warm up. I've seen this in London with the London taxis. You'd always see, like in the winter months, something over the front of them just so they could warm up in the mornings and during the day. These BJ74s have got a really cool interior, especially when they're in stock condition like this. Very modular dash. We've got a real simple compact disc player up there, probably from around the same sort of era. I hope you know Japanese if you own this vehicle, because if you don't, I don't know how you're going to get into four-wheel drive or use the handbrake or whatever, because there is no English writing here at all. It's all Japanese, so it's very cool. This has come from Japan. Another very cool thing about this vehicle is that, so Japan's got quite a cold climate. Some parts of Japan are extremely cold in the winter, and they've got a 24 volt system. All the electronics on this vehicle, you'll see it here in the cigarette lighter. It's 24 volts, so be careful when you're plugging your phone charger in. I think it might blow it up or something. But no, the 24 volts for the cold climate, so you can get some big cranking amps behind it to get it started. Something else very cool on the floor here, you'll notice that this is where a PTO lever would have gone. There's no PTO on it at the moment, but this here, I'm wondering if it did have a PTO at some stage in its life. Would have been very cool if it was still on here. Other than that, we've got, you know, things like the 5-speed. We've got, being a BJ74 and an LX probably, it's got the vacuum transfer. So we were coming into the days of luxury, so you didn't have to do much to put it into full drive but press a button like the old HJ61s had on them. So another thing it was into Mr Landcruiser for was it only had one speed on the heater blower. So it only worked on high speed, and that just constantly blows all the time. When it gets to a certain temperature, you want to back that off and just have it nice and quiet. So did some investigation into that, and the blower resistor had failed, so we managed to get a brand new genuine one of those, and we've popped it in there, and now it works on every single setting, which will be very nice. But just check this out, we've got the door cards in here, are immaculate. It's a shame that the central locking button's missing out of here, but both sides are just absolutely immaculate, and the seats as well. Turbo seats, like you usually get, that's very cool. Factory turbo, and there's not much else going on in here other than that. It's pretty simple and basic. Bit of a center console going on there, very cool. Right, let's wrap this one up. Right, customer's on his way to pick this one up now. He's going to be really relieved that we've got to the bottom of this problem. They can actually use it and enjoy it, and hopefully we don't see this one back at Mr Landcruiser, and they can get out there and use it for what it was built for. Very cool. BJ74, not really sure of the year because it's a grey import. Beauty.